Good afternoon to you. We will now continue with the Constitution, Part 3 of Electoral Reforms. In the last class, we have seen certain electoral reforms of far reaching consequences. And such very important electoral reforms we will see now also. You see, in 2003, the Election Commission issued an order under which every candidate seeking election to the parliament or to the state legislature should furnish on his nomination papers the details on number 1, whether the candidate has been convicted or acquitted or discharged in any criminal offence in the past, or whether he was jailed or fined. This is number 1. Number 2, prior to 6 months of filing nominations, whether he was accused of any pending case of any offence punishable with the imprisonment of 2 years or more, and in which charges have been framed or cognizance have been taken by the court, and if so, the details. Thirdly, the details of movable and immovable assets, including bank balances, etc., of the candidate, and also his spouse and dependents. Fourthly, the liabilities, if any, especially with reference to public institutions or banks or government dues, etc. Number 5, educational qualifications of the candidate. Remember, importantly, providing false information itself is an offence, punishable with 6 months rigorous imprisonment or fine or with both. So remember, this is a very important 2003 as a result of Supreme Court decision that every voter should take an informed decision. For taking an informed decision, he should be informed of the background of the candidate, his criminal cases, movable and immovable assets, whether he had taken any loan from the bank, any loan has become NPA, what is his educational qualification, what is his wife's property or dependent's property, etc., are to be furnished. This is the direction from the Supreme Court, as a result of which in 2003 the Election Commission has issued specific instructions, a landmark decision of the Election Commission in consequence of the decision of Supreme Court. Very important, kindly keep a note of it. If there is a main question, you should remember this. Secondly, we are now coming to voting through ballot paper, voting through postal ballot, voting through postal ballot. Perhaps you remember the Election Commission just hardly a month before recommended postal ballot facility to all senior citizens above 65 years of age and those of COVID-19 patients and those living in containment area. In fact, it was proposed that this should be introduced even in Bihar elections. However, these orders were subsequently withdrawn and status quo ante was restored. Why it was withdrawn? Apparently, there was no consultation with the political parties. All on a sudden, the election commission has announced, and the political parties, met the election commissioners and expressed their unhappiness. Apparently, as a result of this, the orders were withdrawn. As of now, the senior citizens above 65, they have, up to 80, they can go to the polling station, they have to vote. There is no provision for any voting, except if they are suffering from COVID-19, of course, they are entitled. That will come in the next passage. What is postal voting? First, we should know what is postal voting. Postal voting is nothing but a practice where the ballot papers are distributed to the electors by post. Through postal ballot, the voters can cast his vote remotely by recording his preference on the ballot paper and sending back to the election office before counting. Understand? Now let us understand who can avail this facility. Who can avail this facility? Postal ballot facility, postal voting facility. Who can avail? Number one, members of armed forces. Number two, members of armed police service outside the state. Number three, government servants posted outside India as well as their spouses. Number four, those under preventive detention, underline, those under preventive detention. Number five, under RPA 1951, senior citizens, 80 years and above, and those with physical disability, and also the electors in quarantine due to COVID-19 can avail postal voting facility. In nutshell, if you consolidate and provide a gist, remember, we have provisions to cast votes in three ways. Number one, in person. Go to the polling booth along with your EPIC and see the electoral roll and cast your vote. This is in person. Secondly, by post. I have just now told you. Thirdly, by proxy. We have seen the first two categories. Now we will see what do you mean by proxy voting. Proxy voting allows a registered elector to delegate his voting right to his representative whom he nominates. This was introduced in 2003. Important. Normally, this is allowed for classified service voters serving in armed forces or paramilitary forces. Subject to the proxy should also be a registered voter of the same constituency. In addition to these three categories, there is a category of special voters. Who is special voters? Number one, President of India. Number two, Vice President of India. Number three, Governor. Number four, Speaker. Number five, Cabinet Ministers. And the government servants on duty, poll duty. These special voters have an option of exercising postal vote also. Now, one more development happened. That is, previously what was happening is the travelling expenses incurred by the campaigning leaders of political party are included in the election expenses of the candidate. Now, this has been exempted. That is, the travel expenses incurred by the campaigning leaders of a political party shall be exempted from being included in the election expenses of the candidate. Similarly, since 1993, the government should supply free of cost the copies of electoral rolls and also other materials to the candidates of recognized political parties for Lok Sabha and Assembly elections. So, this is another. And another landmark decision was taken by Election Commission to the extent that the political parties can accept any extent of donations from individuals or from companies except public sector companies. Earlier, any contribution beyond rupees 20,000 should be reported to Election Commission to enable income tax relief for the party. In addition, remember, the company also used to get the IT relief. In 2017 budget, the limit of anonymous cash donations by any individual to any political party has been lowered from rupees 20,000 to rupees 2,000. In other words, the political parties cannot receive cash donations more than 2,000. If it is more than 2,000, it should be either in the check or in the demand draft. It is not by cash. No details of those persons who donate less than 2,000 need be given to the Election Commission. However, the parties must keep the details of those who donate above rupees 2,000. Remember. Then, you know that for the blind people, Braille signage feature in the EVMs was first tried during the by-election of Asif Nagar Assembly constituency of Andhra Pradesh in 2004. Very important PT point of view. Braille signage feature in the EVMs was first tried during the by-election to Asif Nagar Assembly constituency of Andhra Pradesh in 2004. This system, what is the use of this system? This system facilitates the visually impaired voters to cast their votes without the help of attendants. In 2005, it was tried in one of the constituencies during assembly election of Bihar, Jharkhand and Haryana. In 2006, it was tried in one constituency of Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Pondicherry. Another point from the PT point is in 2008, remember first 2004, now 2008, it was tried in all assembly constituencies of Delhi. So 2004, Asif Nagar in Andhra Pradesh Assembly constituency, 2008 in all constituency of NCT of Delhi. Then it was fully introduced in 15th general elections to Lok Sabha in 2009. So from the PT point of view, you should remember first 2004, 2008 and 2009. Similarly, the minimum gap between the last date of withdrawal of nomination and the polling date was reduced from 20 days to 14 days, I think, which we have already discussed. Similarly, another important point you should remember is, in the case of presidential and vice presidential election, the number of electors as proposers and seconders for contesting election to presidentship was increased from 10 to 50, and for vice presidentship it was increased from 5 to 20. The security deposit for contesting election for president and vice president is 15,000. These changes are made under the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Act of 1977, which we have already seen when we dealt with the election of President and Vice President. In 1998, the Election Commission has been given the powers to procure the services of the employees of local authorities, banks, LIC, government undertakings, and also government aided institutions for their deployment on election duty. In 2003, very important changes were made in Rajya Sabha election. This also we have seen when we discussed Rajya Sabha election, that is the Kuldeep Nayar case. Domicile requirement of residency of a candidate contesting an election to Rajya Sabha was removed. Remember, prior to this, a candidate had to be an elector in that state from where he was to be elected. For instance, you can very well remember Dr. Manmohan Singh was a Rajya Sabha member, but he was enrolled in the electoral rolls of Assam because he represented Assam, so he had to be a voter in Assam in any constituency in Assam. Accordingly, he got himself registered in Guwahati constituency, so he became the member of Rajya Sabha representing Assam. This domicile requirement has been removed. Now it is sufficient if he is an elector in any parliamentary constituency in India. This is a major change. There was allegation, there was writ petition before the Supreme Court. One of the very popular journalists, Kuldeep Nayar, he filed a writ petition, but the Supreme Court upheld the amendment to the RPA 1951. Now another is introducing the open ballot system in the place of secret ballot was also introduced for election in Rajya Sabha. This was done to curb the cross voting and also role of money power in Rajya Sabha elections. Under the new system, an elector belonging to a political party has to show the ballot paper after making his vote to a nominated agent of that political party. To which political party he belongs, he should show the ballot paper to the representative of that political party who is sitting in the polling station. So with this we will end. We will continue in the next class. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.